Very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's uLaw webinar. The topic for today's webinar is uLaw's Gmail integration feature. It's not accredited for any Cpd credits, but as you could clearly see within our current schedule of webinars in our website, info.uLawPractice.com, you can clearly note that we have another webinar next week around yet another very interesting integration with our payment gateways. We're going to showcase LawPay as one of our more recent integrating partners. And then the following week after which we have a CPD session around law office or legal office client management. And in the new year, we wanted to introduce having more of the non-CPD webinars kind of being functional and meaningful to you for you to learn the platform and the newer, better things that are being introduced to the platform. So we really hope that you would enjoy these sessions. And we're trying to keep them shorter in duration, kind of bite-sized as they call it, so that we're not elaborating too much beyond its needed time. So let's dive right into today's webinar around Gmail integration. We find that this is a feature that would certainly reduce the amount of time that you spend today in docketing emails that you generate, especially if you are using Gmail as your email provider. Now, this was a feature that was born out of necessity, especially when we have our own clients corresponding and docketing those correspondences as well. Okay. Sometimes you need docket or emails to be docketed, which are T&M. Sometimes you just want to capture the time spent, and then just before invoicing, you may then change the time and material billing requirements based on that specific need. But our clients needed a simpler, easier way to capture emails as and when they happened. And prior to this feature, as if you can imagine, what would happen is you would open up your Gmail, compose the email, write down everything that you had to, then copy, paste that email's body, messaging, and then docket manually into the uLaw system, the amount of time and everything else. Now, so to reduce that and to try and automate that process, reduce the manual steps, we've introduced two important features. The first thing, I'll call it out, is called the Ula Chrome Toolbox. If you are a current user of the uLaw platform, one of our preferred, I would say, browsers is the Chrome browser, the Google Chrome browser. And if you don't have this already, this is your starting point to how you can get those automations and features in. All you have to do is search for Chrome Web Store in your Google browser or any browser that you use. And here, search up for either uLaw or the uLaw Toolbox. Okay? Now, because I've already installed it, it says remove from Chrome, but if you haven't installed it yet, then it would just say install. And then you'd click on it, and you would start to use this toolbox. And what would that look like? It would be an icon such as this that you can pin to your browser. And we constantly keep updating these toolbox too. So just like we have our web application, our iOS and Android app, we've also invested heavily into updating and improvising on this toolbox. And I highly encourage you to give it a try, because this is where you have, beyond being able to do things faster and automating as well, you have some quick links right from the toolbox for you to access. So right from the web application itself, you don't need to bookmark it, it's already there. Help, if you needed to get into any of our YouTube channels for answers, you have it right there as well. Our manual that we're constantly updating, it gives you a perspective of how to use the product in a document fashion every step of the way. That's available in the Chrome Store Toolbox. So on and so forth. Our website, our YouTube channel, Twitter handles, again, all for you to directly correspond and consume information from uLaw platform. We also have our Cpd Reminder System. So if you haven't done this yet, you can register for our webinars. So you get notified right on your Chrome Store about upcoming webinars. You can also access past Cpd sessions. And there you go. We have a specific webinar play store or a playlist rather on YouTube that you have direct access to. Okay, so there's some little nuggets that are really helpful, as I mentioned, to either correspond or to consume information and work with the company directly. Now, in between all this information, you have this little function or button called the uLaw Docket Launcher. Okay, so I'll draw your attention to this particular button. And if you click on it, so this is going to be your newfound friend that's really going to help update and automate a lot of the tasks that you do. You can use it as a direct docketing system as well, even from outside the uLaw system. You don't even have to be logged into the system. You're now creating access point right from here. But we're introducing a new, because now we're extending the uLaw's accessibility beyond the uLaw login. What we've done is we've introduced an additional security, because you want to ensure that this is a very highly secure access to information, and hence we've introduced what's called as the secret key. Now, where do you find that if you're just getting started? I'm going to go into my uLaw system. So if you currently are working with a web version of uLaw, I'm sure you're familiar with the settings. And in the settings, right under the matter type, the last but not the least option, or one just before the last, we have what's called as the email service secret key. Okay, so this by default, if you have not started this feature yet, this would be empty. And the email integration service would be set to none. Okay, so we've just gotten started with the G Suite. If you're familiar with the uLaw platform, we started off integrating with Google Drive and then further extended that to Dropbox and as well as the OneDrive features. Similarly, we've started with integrating with G Suite, which is around the Gmail provider, and we're hoping within the next few weeks we'll be able to extend that for your Office 365 webmail as well. The same feature that I'm going to be walking you through today. Okay. For friends who just joined us, we're just getting started, just walking you through how you would use the uLaw Toolbox in combination with the uLaw system to help docket information in a more timely, automated fashion. It's not accredited for CPD credits, and we encourage you to visit our website, info.uLawPractice.com/webinars, for more information on our upcoming CPD sessions. Okay? So right here you have our secret key that you would set up, and you would click the Save button. And it is this exact same secret key that you would use to enter here. So downloading the toolbox, setting up the secret or email service secret key are the first two steps. Okay? Now let's take a good example of, let's say, a client or a contact within the database. And I've already done this just to save time. So let's say we have a client by the name Larry Gregory. Okay? You can see a lot of information has been provided, and typically you may not necessarily focus on this piece of information, but right at the bottom we do ask if there is an email address for your client. Okay? Now some clients may provide it, but this is an important field that we use to match the email to a client, to a unique client. So if you have, this is an ID that I've created so that I can walk you through how this is done. So let's say that's the email address that we have in record for Larry. That's a first step. So getting client's email address. I've also created a matter for Larry. So there's a slip and fall matter. Okay, so there's just a single matter for Larry at this time. And you can see there are a few dockets. Okay, so far so good. So typically in the old school way, you would have come into uLaw, clicked Add New Event, said Email Correspondence, and then, and this is a new feature too, so you can just speak into the uLaw system today, which I'll get to in a bit. But let's say I say email post, and then you would have to come in and enter the billable time. Let's say it was 30 minutes, or an hour into 30 minutes. Bit of an exaggeration there. Okay, so let's say typically that's how you would have gone about doing your business, to bring in email information as a docket into the system. Now what we're doing is, for you to be able to do this in a more sustainable, evolving fashion that's automated, let's assume that you're in your Gmail account. And now you're writing this email to Larry, to his email address. And you could say, regarding the slip and fall matter. Hi Larry, need to schedule time with you and your neighbor around the slip and fall matter. Okay, let's just call it that. Now, as soon as you download the uLaw Toolbox, what you'd start to notice is within your Gmail Compose area, you would see this little button called uLaw Email Comp, or short for Compose. So once you've composed the email, you first let the uLaw Toolbox know that you've done it, and hence you click the uLaw Email Compose button. And then all you have to do is open up the Docket launcher, and this, once you've provided this one time, you don't have to repeat the username secret key. And we'll now search by email address the particular client whose information you're looking for, and there it is. You've got Larry versus Jack slip and fall. And you can type saying new email composed, scheduling time with neighbor. Okay? And let's say this was 12 minutes of docketing, or let's call it 18 minutes of time spent in writing this email. You just go ahead and click the Docket button right from the uLaw Toolbox. Behind the scene, what happens is we use the secret key to ensure that it's a secure access into your uLaw system. And once you've done that, we ensure that you're using the right client information through the use of the email being, but the assumption we're making is that the email is unique to a client. And you can see right here, automatically the last line item is the new email composed, scheduling time with neighbor for the 18 minutes, docketed right into the uLaw system. So using the email as the unique reference and using a secret key to have a secure access to your uLaw system, you can pretty much use the toolbox now to docket from a Chrome extension. You don't even have to log into the uLaw system anymore. You can do it right from the toolbox. Now, some of our customers have used this outside of the email integration that I was talking about. So you can even go ahead and say time docket, or you can say phone conversations, almost use it as your segue into docketing from outside. So I've seen that happen as well. Okay. But where we see the best bang for your buck, and the reason for building this is because if you are in the business of sending a lot of emails and you track time that's spent in composing, and not just composing, so maybe you take time to read a specific email, right? Some of these cases, criminal matter, family matter, can sometimes have a lot of emails involved, a lot of details in these emails, and you might actually spend a lot of time reading it, and we have legal firms that charge their customers for that. You can do that as well within the uLaw system. So let's say I compose an email. Okay, I'm going to say follow-up meeting to be scheduled. Need schedule time on Feb 3rd for follow-up. Okay? Now you can see uLaw email composed, and you can also send this email to your client. The last time I didn't send it on purpose. This time I'm going to send it. So let's say your client reads that email. Just wait for that email to be sent. Okay? You can see that phone conversation is also docketed. So the uLaw Toolbox can be used for emails, could be used for docketing right from your Chrome store. And if you have, let's say, someone else's email address, as long as you know the email, you can search them up as well. So let's say this is another client. There you go. I know that ab@ab.com relates to one of our clients, Adam Brown. And you can see that I've pretty much brought down all of the matters that are associated with Adam Brown. You're unable to create a matter from the toolbox, but once you have a matter reference, you're now able to choose which matter is in context. And let's say this is the small claims issue with Alex Bunny Rabbit. Interesting. You can go ahead and say in-person discussion, schedule a call, right? So right from here. And if I were to choose Adam Brown, I've got 10 matters. I forget which one was which, but there it is, the telephone conversation that I just entered. So the toolbox is now a handy tool for you to be outside of the uLaw system to docket, whether it's email related or otherwise. But you do have value in using it for the email. So here's the client and the email. So let's say I respond back saying, thanks, Roger. Look forward to it. Kindly send me an invite. And you're corresponding with the legal firm. Right? Now, when you open up an email from a customer whose email address you have on record, you have these two additional buttons called uLaw Email Read and Email Sent. So if you've just read this email, just like how we did it for Compose, you use this button to click on it just once. And then when you go back to the Docket launcher, right, You can docket that back into the Larry versus Jack as a email corresponds read, and so on and so forth. So I think you've got the value of the toolbox and how, using the toolbox, we're now being able to integrate your email correspondences as potentially docketable items into the uLaw system without even logging into the system or being in the system. Yeah. Now this is a great feature, but again, we would ensure that you are using a very strong secret key to begin with. We highly recommend a 16-character. Again, this is a demo instance, but we highly recommend using a 16-character password or secret key, which has a combination of upper, lower cases, numbers, special characters that's unique that you remember. That's something that we expect and hope that you would be able to comply with. Okay? I'll give you a final example. As I said, we're trying to keep these webinars crisp, so please do ask any questions that you may have, because I really want to get into walking you through another use case, which is very important, very handy. Is, let's say we have the same client and their email address. Okay? So we had Larry Gregory as a client, and that's their email address. Now, if I choose, let me use that same example of Adam Brown. Okay, so here is Adam Brown. And let me jump into an Adam Brown matter. Let me use Brown versus Emma. It's archived. So you know what? I'm going to maybe choose something else. Okay, let me choose Brown versus Chang. Okay, so it's an accident benefit matter. And I hope you understand the concept of additional parties if you're using the uLaw system, because the additional parties gives you a way to represent contacts and associate them in the context of a file or a matter based on their relationship in that matter, right? Are they a health practitioner? Are they a defendant? Are they a witness, right? There are many different party types. So when you associate a company or a person to this file, Adam Brown, you are able to use all these different party types. Okay? Victim, etc. Now, if I choose to associate Larry Gregory as a party in this Adam Brown matter, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. And let's say this was a mediator. So I've just associated Larry as a mediator, as a party type within a totally different matter, Adam Brown's accident benefits matter. Okay. Now let's look at our toolbox. And I know that Adam Brown's email is ab@ab.com. I'm going to choose to search on that particular client. There it is. You have all of these different matters. This specific one here. Seven 704-187. Okay, maybe this is a different Adam Brown. I'm pretty sure there are multiple Adam Browns in my system. I need to make sure I'm choosing the right one here. But the bottom line is this. If I went into, well, actually it's this way around. So if I chose Larry's information, the fact that he's also associated with a different matter, I'm going to try and, essentially what happens is when I search up for Larry's in email information, the matter that I'm associated with, that particular matter shows up as well. So if he's a representative or a mediator, then you can actually have that particular matter correspondence added as well. So essentially, the idea is that you can take that unique email for a customer or a contact and then use that email as your unique reference point to use the Docket launcher or the uLaw toolbox to Docket. Okay? Any questions so far? I'm going to take a brief pause to see if you have any questions. Yes, that's an interesting question. So if you did have a very generic inbox email address, like that says support or something like that, essentially what we recommend is when you use that as the email address to search on, then we recommend that you choose the right matter that it's associated with. Right? So if you have multiple individuals with that same email address, then what happens is that you do need to choose the right matter that email address is being associated with. This particular feature, of course, depends on an assumption that there's a unique email address to individual contacts, because it's based on the email address that we're actually able to search up the particular client. Now, having said that, we're currently considering more secure ways in which we can access that information, maybe for you to provide a file number, maybe for you to provide a unique reference identity for a customer. But today we're starting off with the email address being that, and we're looking to evolve that unique reference key as we move forward. Well, thank you. That's a good question. And definitely is a challenge. If you have the same email address associated with multiple individuals, then the onus is on you to choose that. Now, just like in real life too, right? Even if it's a support at abc.com, and if you're dealing with multiple individuals at ABC, and if that's the only email address that you have to correspond, then you would choose appropriately to associate that email to a client. So it's very similar to that. Any additional questions? As you can see here, as soon as I associated Larry to the Adam Brown matter, you can see that that information also shows up when I'm searching up Larry. Question is, where do I search the toolbox? So the toolbox is it's not within the uLaw system, and it does not work on other browsers yet. This is meant because we've installed this into the Chrome Web Store. I know it's very specific, but we looked at the top 3 browsers, and we started off with Chrome. A little bit more partner-friendly, I think, in terms of being able to develop features such as this. So it is the Chrome Web Store, so you can go into Chrome, search up Chrome Store, and you search up the uLaw Toolbox. And you would install this into your Chromebook. There are many different Chrome extensions. They're called Chrome extensions, and you can see that you could have Chrome extensions for various different applications as well. Like I have one for my security software McAfee as well. And there's no charge for that. I think that's another question. There's no fee or charge for the toolbox. It's absolutely free. It's just a value-added sidekick for you to be able to do all of these little tasks. Especially if you're living in the email world and you suddenly have an email and you need to docket that against a client. Instead of switching back between uLaw and your email, you can just do that right from here. Any more questions, or you need me to explain something extra in terms of the feature itself? I'll be more than happy to do that. But as I said, otherwise, I wanted to make sure you've got the value for your time, as this is a feature demo. So just as a quick recap, so think about any questions that you may have. I'll do a quick recap. The first step, of course, is to download the uLaw Toolbox from your Chrome Web Store. The second step, as you would notice, is to create a secret key in your uLaw system, a very, a good complex password or secret key would be greatly appreciated. Use that secret key. Once you've saved it into the uLaw system, you would now enter that as the secret key with your username, of course. That's unique to you at uLaw. And you can choose, the next step, of course, would be associating an email. So when you're doing your client intake, asking for an email address, right? And once you've associated an email address, so let me go back. Larry Gregory. So ensuring that you've got the email address filled out, and that's the information you would use within your Docket launcher to search on. It just takes a couple of extra seconds for it to refresh. And then once you've got email correspondences to Docket, you can do that right from the email. You can just say email read, go into your Docket launcher, and essentially docket the time. Because you would not be able to do this in your email system. You would not be able to capture all the title description in your uLaw system. So this is a way, a conduit to marry those. Once you hit docket, that information gets copied over into your uLaw system. That's how simple as that. And if you do associate a contact with that same email address across multiple other matters, you can see it just takes some time for it to refresh. And if you do associate them across multiple matters, then you would see those different matters show up in this dropdown. Okay? Once again, I'll pause just for another couple of minutes to see if you have any questions. If not, I will stop the recording, and thank you for your time. And for any uLaw customers that are out there who joined us today, if you are practicing real estate, we currently have this voting system that is needed by one of our partners, Unity. So if you see the value in this integration between uLaw and Unity, and for them to partner and have that integration available, they just want to have kind of a voting process where you can just go click on this particular link and then add your vote for that integration. But please integrate with uLaw. Okay? You can see there's about 10 votes right now. You just have to provide your email address and then move forward from there. Okay, so if there aren't any more questions, I thank you for your time. Look forward to speaking with you in our next webinar, and that is going to be in the topic of our integration with LawPay, which is one of our newer payment integration partners who, in fact, have a very interesting offer, a discounted offer for all of our customers to participate in. So please do join in, tune in at 2 p.m. next Friday, and thank you very much. This webinar is being recorded, will be available on our YouTube channel as early as Monday.